Alright,
Okay.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera semua. Selamat datang ke Bengkel Asas Lanjutan 3.0 PRS MRSM 2021. Sebelum kita mulakan program, kita mulai dulu dengan bacaan Al-Fatihah. Untuk program hari ini, kita punya Zoom disponsor oleh pihak Ansara Typing bersama dengan TNF Energy Sdn Berhad. Jadi untuk program ni kita akan pakai Zoom link ni lah. Alright, untuk seterusnya, cikgu tak nak buang masa, cikgu nak memperkenalkan kita perkenalkan penceramah yang kita jemput khas daripada Oxford University. Sekarang dekat sana kan, Aiman? Pukul berapa Alif? Alif Aiman.
7.16, 7 suku.
7 suku pagi kat sana. Terima kasih
8
Alif
jam.
Aiman. 8 jam terima kasih Alif Aiman. Jadi cikgu nak mempersilakanlah Alif Aiman untuk take over terus program ni dan untuk berkongsi tips ataupun apa sajalah pengalaman Alif dalam boleh bantu pelajar-pelajar dalam ni untuk menjadi case yang lebih berkesan di maktab masing-masing. Untuk pengetahuan semua, Alif juga adalah bekas peers di MRSM Typing. Alright. Dipersilakan Alif. Oh, sekejap Alif, sebelum tu Alif.
Ya.
Ini ada, cikgu perlu mention juga. Ada Puan Zai, Puan Rozairah dari MRSM PPP, Timbalan Pengetua Pembangunan Bakat. Cikgu rasa akan ada lagi Ustaz Ustaz apa nama pengetua? Pengetua cikgu Kepala Batas.
Najib Syauqi.
Yes, Ustaz Syauqi. Cikgu rasa Alif mesti kenal sebab your teacher.
Ustaz Syauqi, kenal.
Yes, mungkin akan ada dalam ni lah. Alright, so cikgu persilakan Alif untuk teruskan program. Persilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. And good afternoon, except for me. Good morning. I will try to share my slides and see. Share screen. Okay. Can you see my screen? The PowerPoint. I'll try to put it on a.
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for the response. Okay. As you can probably tell, I will try my best to discuss with you to conduct this session in English and Malay. But my Malay is, I can either speak English or Bahasa Utara. So I cannot speak like Malay baku. It may sound weird, but that's how it is. Okay. Anyway, just again, just let me know if you need me to repeat whatever I said. If you want me to expand more on whatever I am saying, please feel free to interject. Please feel free to cut me in, and just you can also let me know what you think about whatever I am saying during the session. Okay. Let's try to. Can you still see my screen without seeing my notes? Hopefully not.
We can only see the presentation.
The slides, huh? All right. Okay. Thank you. That is really nice. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Before we start, I would like to thank Cikgu Aisha for inviting me again to share and discuss a little bit about my experience. I am truly humbled for this opportunity. And because I know that you have had previously you had gone through 2 sessions, and obviously I am nowhere near the speaker's level. I know one of the speakers, Cikgu Zul, or Dr. Zul, as you would probably call him last time. He was the counselor for MRSM Transkrian when I was there for my PMR, so I know him quite well. And obviously, again, like I would like to stress that, you know, I am nowhere near the amazing speakers previously, but I will try my best to share with you whatever knowledge or experience that I can that may be relevant to you as your peers, for your respective MRSMs. And also, of course, thank you to all of you for willing to spend some time on your Saturday afternoon. Thank you, Cikgu Aisha, for organizing something on Saturday. You know, usually weekend you'd probably do something else, but instead you decided to come to this session, listening to me rambling or talking about something that may not be very important, but I'll try my best to make it as useful as possible to you, inshallah. All right, okay. Let's go to the next slide. So thank you, Cikgu Aisha, for introducing me earlier. I usually go by Alif Aiman. I obviously, as any Malaysian in our generation would, we have a long name, but I usually just go by Alif Aiman. And most people would call me Aiman. As Cikgu Aisha has mentioned, I am currently doing my master's at the University of Oxford. And you can tell from the other text down there, like in the slides, I did my PMR dekat MRSM Transkrian, and then I went to MRSM Taiping for my SPM. And then after that, I was offered the MARA scholarship to do my foundation degree at the International University. It's just like a preparatory program for 1.5 years. And then went to Indiana University in the States to do psychology for my degree. And then I graduated back in 2018. After that, I worked for exactly 2 years back in my hometown, Kulim. So if anyone here is from Kulim as well, we are from the same place. Okay, moving on. Again, I would like to just let you know that you can always ask any questions, even when I'm talking. Just please feel free to unmute yourself. I'm not sure if I can see if someone raises their hand, but you can try. And hopefully Cikgu Aisha or anyone like the other co-hosts would make me aware of that. And then you know, we can always talk more about whatever we are discussing about. And also, like, again, I would like to stress that whatever I am, okay, I can see someone clapping their hands. Thanks. We're not done yet. Oh yeah. What I was about to say earlier was that again, I would like to really stress out that you know, what I'm about to share with you, though I try my best to base them on scientific fact, they are mostly based on my personal experience and whatever knowledge that I have stumbled upon. So, you know, like, I may not, the information that I am about to share with you may not be as scientifically, you know, based on scientific, right? I know that previous 2 sessions you talk about like something related to yeah, like cognitive therapy or something, which obviously I don't have any experience on. But again, like, I'll try my best to base on whatever I'm talking about towards scientific fact. So here are the contents of today's workshop or today's session. First, the only scientific fact that I will try to share with you is about theory of mind, and how. Okay, so what does it mean? What is an example of theory of mind, and why did I choose to share with you about theory of mind? Why not something else? And then we will look into intrapersonal and interpersonal aspects, how theory of mind relates to these 2 aspects. So intrapersonal is something within yourself, about you, the context of your lives, and then a little bit about stress and how to deal with it. And then we'll move on to interpersonal, that is your relationships with anyone around you, your family, your friends, strangers. Within that topic, we will talk about empathy and the golden rule. A few other things, such as being understanding or being sensitive to those around you, and also ultimately being humble and being grateful for whatever you have in life. Okay, all right. So far, is everyone all right? Or if you want me to expand more on whatever I have on the slide, please just feel free to come in or raise your hand. I think I can see if someone's raising their hand. All right. Okay. So if not, then let's just continue to theory of mind. This is like one of my favorite quotes from Carl Jung. So he was a renowned psychologist. He's like a major figures in the field of psychology, among the pioneers. And this is one of his good quotes. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So does anyone here would like to share with us, what do you think about the quote? What do you think the quote means, and how does it relate to your, I don't know, your life or whatever you want to relate it to? If no one wants to volunteer, then I can call upon some names. Hadi. Okay, all right, go for it, Hadi.
All right. This thing is pretty similar to what my dad had taught me. He said that there's one quote that he used to tell me. It says that don't let the day runs you, but let yourself run the day. So yeah, that's how I understand from this quote.
Nice. Would you like to expand more on the quote? What do you think about the quote that you just shared? Don't let the day runs you, but instead you yourself runs the day, right? What do you think about the quote? So like translate it into like a plain English or plain Malay sentences.
Okay. So it's like for everything, every action that you do, it has to be for your own advantage or for your own future. Like like how do you, like, say for our SPM, so we mustn't like just procrastinating, like we sit and do nothing, but we have to at least move our hands or do like revisions or study hard for our SPM. So it's just it's generally the quote is to express the pepatah tu dia nak menekankan supaya kita rajin ataupun bekerja keras lah. Jangan duduk saja, jangan fikir dan duduk saja. Bila kita fikir, kita rasa macam benda ni bagus atau betul, kita kena bertindak bersungguh-sungguh untuk to achieve the desired future or the desired product that we want.
Mute.
That's all.
Okay, there we go. All right, nice, amazing, excellent, Hadi. Yeah, so a big clap, round of applause for you. Exactly. Actually, that's what I will talk about as well later in the session. Anyone else would like to share with you what is your thought, or what do you think about this quote? Daniel, go for it.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Nama saya Daniel. Jadi pendapat saya, quotes ni dia berkaitan tentang how we think toward apa yang kita nak, macam power of kita punya mind untuk kita decide kita punya destiny. Maksudnya kalau kita punya mental tak kuat, it will affect your destiny. But kalau yang quotes ni maksudnya dia macam we need to overpower the mind to control how, like macam mana apa yang kita nak buat untuk kita dapat apa yang kita nak, macam tu. Dia macam bukan about macam pasrah redha macam itu.
All right, that's yeah. So I agree with that. Like that's exactly how I understand the quote as well. Of course, like if you have some other interpretation of the quote, then it's totally valid as well. Like we all have our own opinions and our own take on whatever information that we come into. So I agree with Daniel, and he touched a little bit about our mentality, and Hadi also talked about like being in control of what you are doing in life. And for me, like I think it's a very clear example, or a very simple example of how this quote relates to our daily life, right? Like for example, every morning, say you wake up feeling very tired, right? Say like if you wake up before subuh or for subuh, that would be like 5:30, 6:30 a.m. And you feel like very tired. You feel like you haven't had enough sleep, and you think that okay, this is probably just my body, just how I was built, just how my body works. Like I can, even if I wake up early, I would still feel tired. Probably, I will need to continue, go back to sleep after Salat Subuh or whatever. So this is an example of us thinking that, oh, okay, maybe this is just how we are built, right? We are tired because like our body cannot wake up that early. But actually, if you take control of it, if you think about it, okay, so try to assess what you did, like say for example last night, probably because you sleep at like midnight or 1 a.m., 2 a.m., looking at your phones, playing games or whatever. So you slept late and then you wake up at like 5:30, 6 a.m. Then obviously you are going to feel tired, right? So what you can do is you have to make the unconscious conscious. The unconscious being that you think that, oh, sleeping at midnight is something normal, something that everyone does. But then like if you make it conscious, if you realize that, if you acknowledge that, oh, actually I am probably tired every morning when I wake up because I went back to like at midnight or 1 a.m. So what you can do is try sleep at 10 a.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. earlier and see the next morning. So that's an example, a simple example of how sometimes we think in our life that things are that way because that's how things work, that's how life works. But actually, if we realize, or if we acknowledge the power or the control that we have over our own life, then we can actually change it. And like I like the example that Hadi shared with us about like being concerned or being worried about SPM. You think that okay, so SPM right now, especially with online learning, online class, it is probably difficult for you to focus, to pay attention to classes. You probably feel like, oh, I'm doomed for my SPM, like nothing I can do. But actually, if you think about it, you can still take control of it. You can still change what you want to. You can still work on what you feel like you have to work on. So if you want to ace, or if you feel like you need to work on your additional mathematics subject, for example, then you can work for it. You can go, like do some practice examples, contact your maths teachers, ask questions. There are a lot of things there are a lot of actions that you can do. So the first thing that you have to do here based on this quote, or like what we have discussed so far, is that you first have to realize that whatever you are doing right now, they can be a product of your own habits, or your own actions. Certain actions, like I said, like going to bed late at night, you would feel like, okay, that's just how I am. You know, I need to sleep late at night. I cannot sleep at 10 p.m. You would feel that, okay, maybe I'm just built that way. Maybe I'm just born that way. But actually, you know, it's probably a product of your habit. You have been sleeping at midnight ever since you got a smartphone or anything. So yeah, that's what I think about the quote. And I think it is very, very helpful, you know, whenever you feel like you are losing control of things. Just think about this quote. All right, that is excellent. Thanks again, Daniel and Hadi. Okay, so let's go back to the main topic of our workshop today, that is theory of mind. So theory of mind is actually essentially a concept about the awareness of our own cognition and the cognition of others. For example, like beliefs, desires, intents, intentions, emotions, and thoughts. For example, we all have our own beliefs, right? Like not only religious belief, but also how we believe the world works, how we believe humans are made of. We know that we all have our own desires, we know that we all have our own emotions, and also our own thoughts. So the ability to be mindful or to be aware of our own thoughts. So for example, like right now, you are probably thinking of something else, or you are probably thinking about what I am telling you. And I also have my own thoughts. So that's being aware of our own thoughts. That's a practice of theory of mind. That's what theory of mind refers to. And not only do you think about your own thoughts, but you can also think about what other people think, right? You can think about, okay, now I am seeing Hadi, Ejas, and Daniel. I can think of what you guys are thinking. You guys are probably thinking that, you know, I am speaking nonsense, or you know, like we all can think about what other people think. And so that's like a second order level of theory of mind. So the third order is I can think of Hadi thinking of me. So like Hadi is probably like thinking of me as like, I don't know, like a nonsense person, spouting nonsense words. So that's my thought. But in actuality, like Hadi wouldn't even like be thinking about me. Like he probably would think about like, how can he leave this session as soon as possible. So that's again like that's you know, that are all my own thoughts. You know, sometimes we feel like, okay, this guy is, or like this person doesn't like me, he hates me, or they hate me, you know, they dislike me or whatever. But again, if you become aware of your own thoughts, right? Like if you think back, why do you think that way? And you can also think about, do they really feel that way? Because sometimes it's all in your mind, right? Like you just feel like, okay, this person doesn't like me. In actuality, maybe the person doesn't even know you, right? So how could he like you as a person? So you know, like again, being aware of what you are thinking at the moment, being aware of what others are thinking of you, that's theory of mind. So I will pivot this concept, this theory of mind, with the aspect that we will talk about later, your you know, within yourself, your own thoughts and emotions, and also your relationships with others as well, you know, with your families, with your friends, and even strangers. Okay, so just like a fun fact, so researchers believe that you know, theory of mind started to develop in children as early as 12 months old. That is like 1 year old. But that's like one you know, one theory. Obviously, some other researchers believe that we are just born with you know, theory of mind in the first place. But we will not talk more about that, because like that's still debatable, that's still ongoing, that depends on, you know, your assumptions, I guess. Okay, so again, an examples of you know, how an example of theory of mind in our daily lives. How does it relate to our daily life? You know, the everyday, again, like I said, the everyday interaction and internal dialogues that we have with ourselves. Even right now, we have like so-called you know, the small voice that goes in our head, right? Like whenever we want to do something, you know, there will be like sometimes like a small voice of ours, obviously, you know, like telling us, oh, but if this is the right thing to do, you know, like today I want to like eat I don't know, like Maggi goreng or whatever, and then like your internal thought would tell you like, oh man, like you have eaten Maggi goreng for 6 days, please eat something else, something like that. You know, like this is not a hallucination, or, you know, like this is not schizophrenia or anything. Like that's just, you know, that's just normal. That's just your own thought, your own dialogue. So that's an example of theory of mind. And then again, you know, your relationships, your interactions with others around you. Like my earlier example, what you think of other people's thought, what you think of you know, the things that are going through other people's mind. So that's also an example of theory of mind. Okay, so again, why did I choose this concept? Why do I think that you know, this concept is important for you to know? For me, I just want to encourage you to be mindful of what is going on in your mind. And going back to the quote that I shared with you earlier, you know, I would like you to take control of not only your own thoughts, but also your own actions. So I just want you to realize that, you know, you have more power than you imagine you have. So once you realize that, hopefully, you know, it will help you. It will help open doors for your, basically open a new horizon, open a new perspective in your life. Okay, so far this is the only scientific thing that I will share with you. After this, they will mostly be based on my experience. So if you want me to expand more on what I just said to you, or, you know, if you want to share with us what you think about this concept, what do you think about theory of mind, please feel free to come in. Yeah. No? Okay. Again, like, you know, sometimes we probably take some time to process whatever information that we just stumbled upon. So, you know, like if you feel like later, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you have a question on this concept, you can always ask me anytime. Okay, all right. So now let's talk about the intrapersonal aspect, that is about you, like within you. What is going on through your mind? What do you understand about yourself? Do you even know yourself that well? Okay. So let's do a simple thought exercise. And again, like I would like you to share with us whatever question that I ask you. So first, I would like you to think about your background and the context of your life. You know, for example, your upbringing. So think of yourself as a third person. You know, like if you are watching a movie or if you are playing game, look at yourself as another person. You know, like you being in this, like being a different person, and then think about your upbringing. Say, like for example, your childhood experience, your primary school experience, your family background, your parents and siblings' personalities. Think about it. Like just select one scenario or one example, and can you even see yourself like as a third person? Not you know, like see yourself as someone else. You should probably you can probably easily imagine that, right? And do you know your own personality? So one question that I have for you is, tell me one word that best describe yourself. Share with us. Like if you don't feel like unmuting yourself or speaking, you can also just put it in the chat. Let's see if I can even see the chat. Ah, there's a. Where's the chat? There we go. Okay. Cheerful. Okay. Daniel said that he is cheerful. Explorer. Okay. Nice. Anyone else would like to share? For me, I would. Okay, I'll just also myself. I would describe myself as a critical person. Anyone else would like to share with us? You know, the one word that best describe yourself. Imaginative. Nice. Okay. Fearless. Nice. Calm. Overthinker. Okay. Overthinker. Interesting. Outgoing. Introvert. Okay. Thank you. Yep. You can feel free to keep sharing with us what the one word that best describe yourself. Would anyone be willing to come in and talk about how did you come into the conclusion that you are that word best describe you? You can share with us like the thought process that went through your head, or like people have been telling you that you are an approachable person, you are an overthinker, so that's why you think you are an overthinker, or like you are an extreme person. Anyone would like to share with us?
Can I share mine?
Of course, yes, go ahead.
So I can say that I am a overthinker because.
Sorry, say that again. I didn't get you the first time.
I can say that I am overthinker because every time, especially before I sleep, I will think, what if thief something, or maybe kill my parents. So sometimes I do sleep late because just think about the scenario that I did it myself. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Nazura or Aisha, whichever you usually go by. Okay. Overthinking. That is interesting. We can go through about over that process. Okay. Anyone else would like to share with us? Okay. Hadi, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. If you don't mind, I'll read your whatever you shared with me aloud. Okay, so Hadi said that he's an explorer because he loves to know a lot about scientific phenomenon, and he loves to learn about how machine works. And usually when he's on his own, he will think about the anatomies of machines and even imagining himself as the mechanic. Okay, that is very, very interesting. All right, nice. Okay, thanks, Hadi, for sharing that with us. Yeah. I mean, like, whatever you feel like the one word that best describe yourself, that there should be a reason to that, right? Like, even if like I said, even if you think of that word because someone has been telling you that you are an extreme person, therefore you think that you are an extreme person. Or you could even just think about, like, I'm just cheerful. I try to be as cheerful as I can every day. That hence, like, I chose cheerful as the word that best describes yourself. And even for me, like, I think I am critical because I don't know, it's just a habit of mine. Whenever I see something, whenever I talk about something, whenever I learn about something, that it's my habit to always question it, like unpredictable. Interesting. Aina, would you like to share with us why you said unpredictable best describe yourself? I mean, if you don't want to, it's also fine. I was just asking if you would like to share with us why. Anyway, going back to what I was talking. So yeah, like I think of myself as a critical person because not only am I critical when I learn or do something, you know, like I would also be critical of whatever everything around me, you know, like I could also, you could also say that, you know, like I am an overthinker, like I like to think beyond what I am supposed to think. So like, you know, whatever word you said best describe yourself, that is totally valid. You know, that is what you think of yourself as, and that is up to you. If you feel like, you know, that word is actually negative, a negative thing, if you feel like that it is negative, then, you know, you have the choice to work on it, to improve on it, to change that you know, your own perception on yourself. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing with us your thought. Also sorry, I know if you don't feel like talking and I suddenly called upon you. Please also feel free to like just, you know, direct message me on chat. If you don't feel like, you know, letting everyone see what you wrote. Okay. So can you also, I think Hadi already told me this, told us about this. So what usually goes through your mind when you are on your own? You know, like when you are on your own, not doing anything, just chilling around, you know, like even when you are watching television, when you are watching Netflix or anything, like usually there would be something going through your mind, right? If you are even aware of that, some people they are not aware of what goes through their mind. You know, they just see the world as how it is. But some people, they are even, you know, like they overthink. So if you have been aware of what usually goes through your mind, would you like to share with us, you know, whatever usually goes through your mind? Again, you can please feel free to put in chat, or you can even direct message to me if you don't want anyone else to see. I won't read it if you don't want to. So again, I'll read Hadi's sharing. He said earlier, when he's on his own, he would usually think about the anatomies of machines, imagining himself as mechanic. So that's, you know, what usually he thinks of. So wondering more about the chemical reactions. Interesting. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So now that I asked you to think about it, suddenly you realize that, you know, most of the time you don't even pay attention to what goes through your mind. You know, like your mind is always working, even though when you are sleeping, it always operates. It always operates, right? So now, if, for example, you cannot think of one scenario or one example of your thought going through your mind, that probably means that, you know, you haven't been paying attention, and that doesn't mean like, you know, it's a bad thing. But for me, I think that it is better, it is helpful if you are aware of what goes through your mind, what you always think about. You know, you could say you always think about akhirat or azab kubur or whatever. You know, like it's totally valid. You know, and anyone can think of anything. My career path after SPM, nice. Take action. Like for now, I'll do a lot of revision and study at maths and physics question. Nice. So you see, like some people, like for example, Hani, she just shared with me. Sorry, Hani, if you don't want me sharing. Like another person shared with me that he or she always thinks about the career path after SPM. You know, like what would he or she do in university, like working life. So that's like a long-term process, right? Like that's a long-term thing. Some people would also just think about, what do I do today? You know, like makan, and then like watch Netflix. Today is Saturday, I'm not gonna study. And then what should I do later tonight? Watch Netflix again. You know, like some people can only think like, or they like to think short term, today, tomorrow, and like just for a few days. They don't usually like to think about like what's there after 5 years, what's there after 10 years, what's there after 20 years. And that's like totally up to the person as well, you know. Okay, so again, thank you everyone for sharing with me what usually goes through your mind. I know sometimes you don't feel like sharing, and that's totally okay. If there's like one message, if you haven't been paying attention to what I've been talking about, and that's totally fine as well. Like I understand this thing can be a bit dry or a bit boring. But like if there's one message that I would like to let you, that I would like you to take home, or like you know, always remember, is that try your best to always be mindful, always be aware of what you are thinking, what is going through your mind, because from that you can you know, you can figure out why you feel the way you feel, why you feel stressed, why you feel angry, why you feel bored, why you feel happy. You know, like there are a lot of things that there are a lot of feelings that you can feel, and only by being aware of what goes through your mind, then you know, you can figure out what to do next. Okay, so that's one message. That's one main point that I want you to take. Next is being proactive. So this touch upon what Hadi talked about earlier, about, you know, like if he feels like he needs to study more on SPM, he takes action. He, you know, like approach teachers, do some revision. You know, like he take action. So that's what it means to be proactive. So could you think of an example of yourself being proactive today? Just for today, you know, like you don't have to think about something big. Again, you know, being proactive that means that, you know, you yourself choose to do that. You go out of your way to do it. Excuse me. For example, you know, probably earlier this morning you feel like eating roti canai, and then, you know, you went out, go to the mama stall or kedai mama nearby, get that you know, fat roti canai. So that's an example of, you know, you being proactive. You know, you know that you want roti canai, and then you go get roti canai. You don't wait for you know, like you don't wait for it to come. Some of you may probably think that, not some of you actually, some like other people may probably think that I want roti canai, but maybe that's for later, maybe next week, maybe next month. So they don't take action upon it. So that's an example of ourselves being proactive. So can you think of an example of yourself being proactive? You can also share if you feel like it, you know. Okay, so I can share an example of me being proactive today. Actually, I'm not sure if I have been proactive today. Maybe I have. Maybe I have. Like I went out of bed earlier than I usually do. So that's one. Yep, that's it. Like, so for example, okay, I should probably give you a clearer example. Today I know, like at 7 p.m. I have to you know, discuss with you some stuff about this, and so I decided that okay, I need to wake up earlier than I usually do. Usually I would wake up at like 6. 6 is actually here actually a bit late because it's like, I mean, if as you can tell, like it's very bright here right now. Like it gets bright very early, subuh at like 4:30, I think. So like I decided that, oh, I need to wake up earlier today. So I wake up at 5, and then for me to wake up at 5, of course, I would then need to go to bed earlier last night. So that's an example of me being proactive. You know, like I don't just wait until like midnight yesterday, go to bed, and then wake up at like 6:30, 6:45, prepare 15 minutes for this session. So that's an example of me being proactive. Anyway, like if you can think of one example of you being proactive, then that's excellent. That's good. You don't need to share if you don't feel like it. Okay. So how can you be more proactive? Some of you may feel like, I don't even know what I want, right? I don't even know what I want to do today. So how can I be proactive? So Stephen Covey, he's an American author. He wrote this book. I'm not sure, you probably have heard of it. The title of the book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he suggested that the first rule or the first habit of an effective person is that they always try to be as proactive as possible. They be proactive in whatever things that they do. So I will share with you more on this. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So in order for you to be proactive, you first have to know your influence. What can you control? What can you influence? The things that you can influence. And you also have to know your concerns. What concern you? SPM, for example. SPM concerns you every time. Before makan, before tidur, what your parents usually ask you is, how's your preparation for SPM? So that's an example of a concern. Okay. So I want you to think of an example of one thing that you can take control of and one thing that you cannot take control of, but it still concerns you. If that makes sense. Okay, I'll give you an example. For me, I can take control of what I want to tell you right now, right? I can decide, okay, I don't want to share with them my experience, so I will just not share it. So that's an example of my influence. My concern is the weather today. You know how the British weather is sometimes very, very weird. It will rain for 1 hour, and then the next hour it's just like, very sunny summer. So that's something that is out of my control, but I still have to be concerned about it, right? Like I still need to know what's the weather like. If it's going to rain, then I can prepare an umbrella. Like I can, just not go out of my room. So that's an example of my influence and also my concern. Would anyone like to share with us an example of your influence and your concern? Again, if you don't want to unmute, please just type it in chat. Okay, Ijas. What do I call you? Ijas?
Ijas.
Ijas. Okay, sorry. Go for it.
Okay, so I think I'm going to talk about my concern first. I think my concern is about other people's lives. Because whenever I meet someone, I always talk about what are they thinking or what are they doing, like stuff, and what are their emotions. And at some point, there will be something that happens, something bad happens to them, and that really makes me a bit pushy to them. So, but I am being too pushy with them, but I can't control them to do what I want to, like express their feelings and thoughts with me, because not many people can express their thoughts and being open with some random dude online. So like, yeah, so I'm really concerned about my friend right now who is very suicidal right now. I'm very concerned about his life right now. So that really I'm trying to help him, but doesn't seem like it's very helpful to me right now. So
Okay. That's a very serious thing, and like you are doing an amazing job trying to help the person in any way you can. Okay, so that's an example of concern. We can talk about that a bit more later, Ijas. But let's go back to concern. So that's a good example of concern. Like you, what other people think, what other people do, that's, that can be your concerns as well. Anyone else would like to share with us your concerns? Okay. So someone said, he or she has a lot of concerns. They are not good in socializing properly. They are unable to satisfy their parents' wants or needs. Sometimes it took them longer time to complete a simple task, or they are unable to accomplish simple tasks. When arguing or fighting about things, my influence is I can control myself from hating someone, while my concern is about how others control their emotion, like how they feel about me. Okay, that's a good example. Yeah, exactly. So I hope that you get to understand the difference between a concern and an influence. So let's take this one example. When you are arguing on, or when you are discussing or fighting about something, your influence is you can control yourself from hating that person, and then your concern is how would that person then feel about you now that you have been arguing. That person would probably think that you are a bad person, you don't go along well. So that's a valid concern, and that's again like an example, a good and an excellent example. So what Stephen Covey wrote about in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he said that proactive people, in whatever they do in their lives, they only work on things that they can influence. For example, going back to the example of arguing with your friend, one concern, or actually one action, one influence that a proactive person would usually do is that he would realize that, okay, I have speak my mind, I have tell you what I feel like, I have spoken what I want to say. So that's my influence, that's what I can do. And next thing is whatever you think about what I say, whatever you think about me, that's totally up to you. You are that's what you think. You are totally free to do that. And knowing that whatever people think about you, whatever people however people perceive you, that's something that also takes courage. That's something that also takes your mind to realize that some things are just out of your control. For example, like other people's perception on you. If you feel like, oh, people have been saying that I am antisocial, I am a very boring person, that's on them. You cannot control, you cannot, like I think Ijaz said it perfectly. You cannot force them to do what you think they need to do. Like sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm actually not a bad person, I'm very kind, whatever. So I want to enforce on you, I want to make you see that I am a kind person. You cannot do that. You can only the only thing that you can do is your control your action. If you feel like I want other people, I want my friends to see me as an approachable person, what can you do about it? So try to for example, like greet them, always ask them about what's going on with their lives, without trying to enforce or trying to force them to do what you think. So that's a very good example of a person being proactive. You always try to only focus on things that you have control of. For example, today, if you feel like, oh man, it's already midday Saturday, I haven't done anything in the morning, have only been watching Netflix, have only been sleeping, have only been like lazying around in your room, and you feel like, oh, I need to do something today, then go for it. Like think about what you can do today, like to make the day count. Like for example, go help your parents, go help your siblings, go study. You cannot go out, I'm not sure you can go out, depends on where you are. So like just think of the things that you have control of. So try not to worry about some things that are out of your control. For example, again, you know, people's perception. And social media is actually very, very a very, very good place to talk about, you know, whether you have control or you know, you do not have control over stuff. For example, I will talk about this later, social media. Anyway, what's the time? Okay, so does anyone have any question or thoughts that they want to share with us before we move on? I hope that you can by now again differentiate between the things that you have control over, the things that you can change, and the things that you cannot change. Again, I would like to really stress that one of the major things that you cannot change in life is what people think of you. You can change it indirectly by, you know, changing your behavior, acting differently around that person, but ultimately you have no control whatsoever over you know, what other people think of you. So don't spend so much time on worrying about that. You know, like if you feel like someone doesn't like you, then, you know, that's okay. What you can do is, you know, you don't hate back, right? Like sometimes like you would just hate a person because that person hates you. So that's, you can control that, right? Like you can have a choice. You can think about, okay, he doesn't like me, she doesn't like me, whatever. I don't need anyone else's you know, approval or anything. So that's what I want you to like the other main message that I want you to you know, always carry around. Okay. Anyone would like to ask, you know, if it's not clear about circle of influence and circle of concern, do you think social media is giving negative impact to young generation social life? Interesting. Okay. Social media impact. I will. Okay, we can talk about this later. I will try to first finish whatever I have on the slides, and then we can discuss more on whatever concerns you have. All right. Thank you for that question. That is an excellent question. Okay. I will get back to you, to the person who asked me this. Okay. So if no one has any other question, we can move on. Okay. All right. So just some practical question that I want you to make sure that, you know, you really understand that some things are just out of your control. For example, global pandemic thing, something that has been going on for just a little bit over a year now. Okay. So do you think that's an influence or a concern?
Influence.
Anyone else? Does anyone think otherwise? Concern?
I could say that global pandemic is a concern.
Okay, excellent. Who else? Who else think that it's an influence? Who else think that it's a concern? Concern. Okay, excellent. All right. So for me, when I was thinking of this question, I see the global pandemic more as a concern. So again, I think there could be like confusion between the two words, influence and concern. Influence, influence literally means something that affects you, right? But in this case, in this example, influence refers to something that you have control on, that you can influence, that you can change, right? So for this question, global pandemic, for me, I was thinking of actually, there's no way we can change the situation right now, right? Like, I mean, let's talk about like at individual level. Of course, like collectively as a community, as a nation, as a global citizen, you know, we can all come together to change, to you know, defeat or like whatever word you use to appease the global pandemic. But like at individual level, I just don't think that, you know, we have the capacity to change the situation, right? Like the virus is something that we don't have control over. We cannot change, we cannot, you know, like tell the virus to like stop, you know, like go away, stop, get out of our lives. We cannot say that. I mean, we can say that, but like the virus just doesn't care. So what I was thinking of for this question is actually the global pandemic, even though it's out of our control, it's still our concern, right? Like it's affecting our lives in so many different ways. Like even right now, we are talking virtually, we are discussing virtually because we cannot all be together in one place. So that's an impact, that's an effect of the global pandemic. So from this question, what I want to stress again is that, you know, you can be concerned, you can be stressed about the global pandemic, you can be stressed about COVID-19, but eventually you have to know that things are just out of your control. You cannot change it overnight. You cannot do anything about it. So what a proactive person would do is usually they would acknowledge this. They would acknowledge that, okay, COVID-19 is affecting my life. What can I do about it? One example that you can do about it is, you know, maybe adapt to it, right? Like, you know, for example, right now you have online classes, right? You don't have physical classes. What can you do about it? Just attend all the online classes. Just try to schedule your own study sessions differently, because usually when you are at your respective MRSMs, right, you would have prep sessions, you would have classes, you have all the schedules laid out for you. You only need to follow them. But right now, suddenly, because of the pandemic, you cannot go to school. Suddenly, you have to do everything on your own, right? You have to think, you have to schedule your daily life on your own. You have to think about when to study for this. You have to think about when to revise for an exam, for example. You have to think about when to revise for a class. You know, you have to do everything on your own. But that's something that you can control, that you can plan on, and you can take action, right? Like you can feel like, oh, tomorrow I have an maths class. What can I do about it? Just revise if you feel like revising. Do some extra, do some like practice questions. So that's an example of, you know, a proactive person taking control over their lives, and not, you know, not worrying too much about something that they cannot control. Okay, next question. You know, listening to me, attending this session, is it your influence? Do you think it's an influence or a concern?
Influence.
Nice.
Influence.
Yeah, you can choose to not listen to me. You can choose to leave, or you can choose to mute me. Just like, you know, go do something else. Something else that's better. Yeah. So you know, like you have control over this. You can actively decide that, okay, I don't want to listen to this guy anymore. I'll just do something else. You know, like probably revise physics classes or whatever. Eating junk food, do you think it's an influence or concern?
It's a concern.
Influence.
Probably influence.
Yeah. For me, when I was thinking of this question again, I actually was intending for it to be an influence, because again, you know, you have control over it. If you feel like you have been eating too much junk food, then stop, right? Like if you have had stock up on a lot of junk food, like go donate to someone else, you know, or like give it to someone else. If you feel like, you know, it's not healthy for you, you have that control, you have that power over your life, right? So okay, no likes on your Instagram post. Is it an influence or concern?
Concern.
Concern.
All right. Oh wow, so many people, I guess, relate to this. You know, like again, that's you are exactly right? Like you cannot, I mean, of course, like you would think about it, like it's a concern. But is it a concern worth thinking of, like worth worrying about? Like, so what? Like if you get like 1,000 likes, what do you get out of it, right? Like it doesn't change your life overnight. Like it doesn't change the fact that you are still in your room, playing your smartphone or anything. So again, like we will talk more about this like when we talk about social media. Last question. You feel like all your friends have a better life than you. Is it an influence or concern?
Influence.
It's a concern out of our
You
Influence.
feel like oh influence. You feel like
Okay. So again, when I was thinking of this question, I wanted it to be actually a concern, because again, like I think I've talked about this example, right? Like whatever, anything that is out of your control. For example, like, you know, your friend has like all the life that you ever dreamt of. He has, or he or she pretty much has everything, you know, like good family, stable family, rich parents. Instagram posts average like 2,000, for example. You know, like they have all the things that you need. They have all the things that you want. But what can you do about it? Like, you know, what can you do? Would you continue being salty or like being like jealous of being envious of them, right? I mean, you can definitely be jealous. You can definitely be wishing something bad happened to them. But what would that do to your life, right? Like, would it change the fact that, you know, you have your own life, you have your own context, you have your own family, you have your own siblings, you have your own experience? It wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't change the fact, right? Like you can choose to be hateful, you can choose to be you know, envious, or in Malay, like dengki, hasad dengki on someone else. But again, like it doesn't change the fact that, you know, you have your own life. And I would also like I would also talk more about this you know, regarding comparing yourself with others. Okay. All right. I hope I mean, like, to those who said that it's an influence, to some extent, I think you are correct. Like you have control over how you feel, right? If you feel like all your friends have a better life than you, what you can do is that, you know, like just be grateful for them. Like that's good on them. Alhamdulillah, they have all the blessings, all the rizki that Allah granted to them, and that's it. That, you know, like what else can you do, right? So you can choose to acknowledge that and then just move on with your life, or you can again like just be envious of everything. But that's not a healthy life, right? Okay. I hope you can by now tell the difference between, you know, like taking action of your life, taking more control of your life, and understanding and acknowledging that some things in this life are just out of your control, and they are sometimes they are worth thinking about, they are worth worrying about. But you cannot spend so much energy, spend so much time on things that you cannot control, because then, you know, like nothing would change in your life. Okay. Now think back about your life background earlier, or what were you thinking when I asked you to, you know, like imagine yourself as a third person? Were the things that you thought of fall under your influence, or are they just your concerns? For example, I think just now I asked you to think of like one word that explain that best describe yourself, right? Like I remember someone said cheerful, extreme, overthinking, what else? Yeah, there were so many things that people shared. So think about that word again. Do you think, you know, you can change that, or is it something that you just simply cannot change? So that's you know, you can spend some time to think about that. And if you have any question, or like to talk more about this, please let us know before I continue to the next slide. Someone just said both. Yeah, definitely. Or maybe that's for last question. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. No question, eh? If you do have a question, just like please feel free to come in. Excuse me. Okay. Next is understanding stress and how to deal with it. So does anyone would like to share with us, what do you think about stress? So again, like when talking about stress, I hope that you by now you can tell that there are good stress and bad stress, and how do you deal with it? The answer is already in what we discussed earlier. But again, anyone would like to share with us what do they think about stress? Sometimes it's good, but sometimes not really good. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Sometimes being stressed is good, but most of the time, being stressed is just not the best feeling. Stress is the indication that we care for something interesting. That's nice. Anyone else? Or you are stressed that you have to attend this session. I'm sorry you have to attend this session. Stress is the indication that we care. Okay, all right, exactly. Like so like you are stressed most of the time because of something that you care, right? Like if you don't care about the global pandemic, you won't be stressed out about it. If you don't care about SPM, you just wouldn't be stressed about it. If you don't care about how your eating lifestyle, you wouldn't care about it, right? You wouldn't be stressed about it. Sorry. Stress is the point where you feel like you burn out your excess energy, like involving physical activities that isn't harmful for others but can make you exhausted. Yeah, definitely. Some people can just feel so drained of energy, so tired just by being stressed. Stress is good because it makes us urge to do something. That's right. Okay. Someone said that stress is good because it makes us, it gives us the urge to do something, especially, for example, like doing homeworks. So we have to finish our homeworks because we cannot deal with the stress anymore. That's good. Like exactly, that's what the purpose of stress is for. Like like you can have physical stress or you can have mental or emotional stress. Physical stress is, for example, like if you put your hand on on the stove, for example, you would get feel like you would get like burn, right? Like obviously that's an example of physical stress. It put a stress on your body, and so like it asks you, like you have to pull away your finger. Obviously, stress is good when we made it being competitive, but it's not when we negative thinking turns stress out yourself. Okay, yeah. Sorry, it was getting a bit dark. When you made it, okay. So that's what stress is for, right? It's to push yourself. It's to it's like someone said, it gives you the urge of doing things that you care about. So if that's what stress is for, then isn't it good, right? Like how can stress be bad if it pushes you to do something that you need to do, that you care about? So stress is only bad. This is just how I feel it is, and I can completely be wrong. But I think that stress can only be bad when, even though after you have do what you need to do, you still doesn't feel like you've done anything. That's probably not a good example. Let's think of a different example. I think, like stress can be bad if it's not helping you. Okay, like yeah, this is a better example. So stress is only bad if it doesn't help you with what you need to do, with what you care about. For example, there's like an exam coming up next Monday, right? And then obviously you are feeling stressed out about it. You feel like you haven't done enough revision for the exam, and so obviously naturally you would feel so stressed. Because of the stress, right? It will push you to do some revision. It will push you to prepare or practice for the examinations. But an example of a bad stress is that you feel stressed for nothing. You're just stressed, but it doesn't help you. It doesn't push you to prepare for the examination. So that's an example of a bad stress. I'm not completely sure if that's like a good example. But I hope you get the idea of like a good stress and a bad stress, and how sorry, it's good if it triggers you to the bad stress makes you hurt or damage yourself or other people. That's true. Stresses that make you feel tired, that make you inactive, that make you that doesn't make you any more productive. It's just a good stress. And how can you avoid from this kind of bad stress, negative, or you're thinking of points? Okay. What did I talk about just now? Okay, all right. So how do you overcome, or how do you avoid bad stress? So someone earlier said that stress is an indication that you care about something, right? So when you care about something, obviously you want to do it, or you want to like keep having that feeling, caring about something. So that's not a good example again. Okay, let's take the same example of having an examination coming up, and you are feeling stressed about the examination. So what you can do to avoid from being stressful is basically just to plan your time, right? Like if you know that next week, next Tuesday, next Monday you have an exam, what you can do today is plan your time. How do you go about revising for the examination? Maybe this morning you study for physics, in the afternoon you study chemistry, for example. You can study for the examinations. But what happens when suddenly later tonight, Saturday night, you haven't done anything, right? Like you feel like, oh, actually I should have prepare for the exam on Monday, but I didn't do that. That's when the stress comes in. That's when you feel like, oh no, and now I need to stay up all night. So what you can do to avoid that feeling is to take control of whatever you need to do, to plan and execute the plan. So by doing that, you can eliminate the possibility of you being stressed out later, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I had a good example in my mind, but I couldn't think of it right now. Okay, bad stress. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. Anyone who would like to share with us an example of you being stressed out, so that we can think through about how to avoid that stress. Please feel free to share. You can unmute yourself as well.
The feeling of stress after breaking up with someone you love.
Feeling of stress after breaking up with someone. Okay, again, so this goes back to thinking about your influence and your concerns, right? So when you broke up with someone, obviously you would be heartbroken, you would be stressed about it. But now what you can do is, stop whatever you are feeling right now and think about, why do you feel that way? You obviously you are heartbroken or you are stressed because you just broke up with someone, right? And now the next thing to do is, think of what you can do with that feeling, what you can do with that stress, what you can do with that heartbreak. One thing is, obviously, if you feel like, you still care for the person and you don't want to break up with them, you can go back to them, talk it out, work on it. So that's one way of appeasing the stress. That's one way of dealing with the stress. Another way is just think that, okay, actually, maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe the person is not meant for me. And, you can always think about it, but acknowledge that, there's nothing else that you can do about it, right? Like someone said just now, I think that's exactly, that best describes what stress is for. It's for something that you care about, right? Like if you then don't care about the person that you just broke up with, then you wouldn't be as stressed. If you feel like you are stressed over it, then that means you still care, right? I hope that makes sense. Obviously, this thing takes practice, and one example doesn't always mean that the solution would work with any other situation, any other stressful situation. So it just takes practice. And I think the key thing about handling stress is that, again, you have to know what you can control and what you cannot control. Yeah, I hope that answers, that explains more on how to deal with stressful situations. Anyone else would like to share with us an example of you being in a stressful situation? I can also start thinking about an example of mine.
Alif,
Mm-hmm.
ada tak kalau dalam situasi kan pelajar yang dia stres tapi dia mungkin dia tak nak buat apa-apa? How
I think
help them? Atau patut ke sebenarnya kita cakap dia tak nak buat apa-apa? Dia memang nak berada dalam keadaan tu. Ada ke manusia macam tu?
Yeah. Yes. There are some people, when they are stressed, they just cannot function. They just feel like, when, let's say again, like stress can be translated, can be perceived differently by different people. Like for me, I like getting a bad grades probably doesn't stress me out. Like I'll just probably be like whatever. But for some people, like getting a bad grade would stress the hell out of them. Like they would be so stressed that they cannot function. They would probably shut down for a day, just be in their bed, thinking about the bad grade. That's totally valid. Some people, they just cannot function with stressful situations. So in that case, if you are that kind of person, that doesn't mean like something is wrong with you. That's just how your body deal with stress, and that's exactly valid. Like some people literally cannot function when they are in a stressful situation. But what you can do again is be aware of your thoughts, be aware of your emotions. Think about it, like why are you so stressed about that grade? Maybe you really care, maybe you really want to make your parents proud, maybe you really want to like prove to your friends that you can get good grades. And like there should be reasons to why you feel stressed about something, right? And as long as you acknowledge that reason and think, and again, like going back to being proactive, as long as you know that it's all in the past, right? Like it happened. Like the grade you have gotten like a bad grade, you cannot change about it. I mean, like, obviously you can go to your teachers, you can ask them to give you like 2 more marks probably for you to get a B or C or anything. But like ultimately you have to acknowledge that some things are just out of your control. Like you cannot change it anymore. But what you can do from it is learn. You know, like you learn from it. You feel like, oh, okay, maybe I got a bad grade because it's not meant for me. It's not my rezeki. Or you can think of like, maybe I got a bad grade because I didn't study enough. So like, again, whenever something stressful happened to you, I want you to always be mindful of what you are thinking, and always get to the root of get to the root cause of your stress. Like, think about why are you stressed about it in the first place, right? Like, usually there should be a reason to why you are stressed about it. And thinking about that reason, try to assess whether you can change it or not, right? Changing it, you can do it physically by actions, or changing it by, you know, changing your thought on it. Like, if you sometimes, like, I don't know, like for me, for example, like getting bad grades just doesn't concern me much, because, you know, like ultimately they are just grades, you know, like that's it, to grades, to exams. So yeah, like you can change stuff with them. That's probably one way of dealing with it. But again, some people may react differently to stressful situations. Depends on how they deal with the stress. Anyone else would like to share with us an example of you being stressed out? Let's next slide. Oh, 5 minutes break. What's the time? 20 minit lagi ya, cikgu?
Minit lagi, tapi tadi kita start lambat kan, Alif? 3
Okay, alright.
Okay.
Okay. So, saya rasa like like dalam 4 slides lagi kot, tapi almost there.
Alright.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. I need to probably turn off the light. And then I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, mana ni nak share stress ni, Syed? Mana students share stress ni?
Abang, I want to ask question.
Belum lagi, abang tak ada.
Yeah.
Alif tak ada. Alif
So
pergi.
any question?
Sabar, 5 minutes break, Daniel.
Oh, low. Dah lah cikgu. Tak ada.
Okay, siapa yang macam Azara Tepe ni? Kalau saya stres, saya nak bersendirian, saya nak tidur. Lepas bangun, balik saya okay. Siapa macam ni?
Saya.
Tak, cikgu lagi stres, cikgu. Saya tidur.
Lagi stres kalau tidur. Siapa yang saya tu?
Cikgu.
Saya
Ya.
Cikgu Aisyah.
Oh ya, lepas bangun balik dah okey Banyak ni, banyak
Saya
orang
Cikgu
macam
Aisyah.
Saya Cikgu Aisyah.
ni. Oh my god.
Saya Cikgu Aisyah. Saya perlu Khairullah.
Ya, siapa yang macam Daniel bila bangun balik pun tak okey lagi. Tu kita kena tanya Alif macam mana.
Cikgu, saya stres tak boleh tidur, cikgu.
Oh, stres tak boleh tidur. Okey.
Ah,
Siapa yang macam Daniel, stres tak boleh tidur? Ada tak? Ke Daniel saja menghadapi benda macam ni?
saya.
Daniel mungkin overthinking tu. Sentiasa berfikir sebab tu tak boleh tidur.
Betul, cikgu. Dia stres sebab overthinking.
Azara Tepe is Baim, okay? Kalau saya stres lain tidur, saya kena pergi karaoke. Okay, boleh. Lepas ni boleh Baim. Mana yang lain stres tak buat apa ni?
Cikgu, saya kalau stres saya taranum cikgu.
Ya Allah, Alhamdulillah. MRSM mana tu? MRSM mana tu? Ya Allah. Yang seorang ke karaoke, seorang taranum.
Nak tengok
Jangan
muka
jauh
yang
lagi
taranum
lagi,
boleh? Nak tengok muka yang taranum tadi.
Tak boleh nak tidur kat pangkuan.
Okay tak setakat ni students?
Okay.
Students? Mana
Okay,
student lain
cikgu.
cikgu nak dengar?
Okay, cikgu.
Mana student lain okay tak setakat ni? Okay, 5 minutes Abang Alif bagi kamu masa untuk ni. Untuk rehat. Lawak lah Pak Im. Oh my.
All right. I wasn't counting the time. But we can continue. Okay. Yeah, self-talk to lepaskan stress. Yeah. Thanks for sharing however you deal with stress in the chat. And again, like I said, stress can be tricky sometimes, right? Like sometimes you in certain situation you feel like, okay, this stress is nothing, I can deal with it, but then suddenly something else happened and you are stressful to the max. Kalau stress, definitely stress. Okay, yeah, that's true. Some people like the stress energy that they felt, like they would radiate it to like those around them, and that's fair, that's valid as well. That's just how people work differently, right? But again,
Aiman, cikgu rasa yang macam ni kan, yang kalau stres, dia akan stres kawan lain sekeliling dia. Ni memang cari pasal. I think this is memang berlaku banyak dalam kalangan kita. So macam mana? Yup. Adakah kita nak menolong atau apa-apa?
Yeah. So like, again, like this is just what I think can be done. Obviously it doesn't probably is not valid to some of your situations. But going back to like people stressing, I have to listen to my favorite song to endure my stress. Nice. But again, going back to like those who are stressful and like they would make other people stress as well. Excuse me. If you are the other people, if you are the one who gets stressed because someone else is stressed, that's like in a way that's good, right? Like because you know that you care about them. So that's one good thing about it. What you can do about it is obviously, if you don't want if you don't want to be stressed anymore, one thing is, like you have, again, go back to being proactive, go back to think about whether that person being stressed would help you in any way. If it wouldn't, if it doesn't help you, if you cannot change it, then you have to accept that some things are just out of your control. They can be stressed, but if you don't, so if let's say like if you want to eliminate the feeling of being stressed out, one thing is to always to acknowledge that, okay, I cannot do anything about this person being stressed. I've tried to talk to him, I've tried to help him, and he is still stressed about it, about like something. What have I done? Like I have tried to help him, and so acknowledging that you cannot change the fact that he's going to be stressed out anymore would actually help you to be less stressful, to be less stressed. And then say like if you still feel like, okay, this person is very stressed out, I really need to help him, then try to understand his perspective, try to talk to him why he is stressed, try to make him understand why he is stressed, why the person is stressed, what is the reason that causes him or her to be stressed out, and then try to, you know, like see if that thing, you know, like say your best friend, I don't know, A, let's call him A. A is feeling stressed about because like, what's an example of him being stressed out? Because all the classes are online now. He doesn't get to attend classes physically, so he's stressed about it, right? Like, okay, and you care about him as a friend, so you know, like talk to him, like tell him that, okay, why first, like probably you can ask, like, why are you stressed? What's the reason to it? That person must be able to tell you know, why he is stressed. There should always be a reason. Sometimes it's also valid that, you know, people don't know like what they are stressed about, and if that in that situation, you can just tell them, you know, like, okay, if you don't know about why you are stressed, just like try not to think about it like for now, you know, like just think of something that you can work on, think of something that you can control for today, just for the moment. Like maybe what do you feel like doing right now? Like eating, what do you feel like doing right now? Going out, pergi karaoke, right? For some people, they would really stress by singing in the shower or wherever. So that's one way that you can do. If the person knows why they are stressed out, for example, again, you know, they want to attend physical classes, they want to attend classes physically. Okay, so I'll get back to that later. So what you can do, what we can tell them again, like just tell this person, okay, I know that you really want to attend classes physically, you are tired of looking at the screen every day, every time, but I want you, like, just tell them, like, I want you to know, like, what can you do about this? You know, we cannot go back to school, right? Like some, maybe a school, certain schools are closed, so we cannot go back to school. That's totally out of our control. But what you can do to help with that stress is maybe you need a change of environment. You have been attending your classes from your room, right? You are tired of the scenery, you are tired of the environment. Maybe you can try go somewhere else, like pergi duduk dekat ruang tamu ke, pergi, you know, go, like, change environment. So again, like, I think the message that I want you to get out from this example is, again, only, you know, like, focus on the things that you can change, the things that you have control over. So, because in the end, like, if you are stressed about something that you cannot control, if you are stressed about the weather, if you are stressed about the pandemic, if you are stressed about online classes, right? Like, I mean, it's a valid stress. It's a very valid stress. You are right for feeling stressed about it, but because you cannot change it, you know, did you want to always be stressed out about it, right? Or you can just accept the fact that, you know, just for the time being, just for this time, for this year, I cannot attend classes physically. What can I do about it? You know, like, there's nothing I can do. So that's my long answer to the question. Again, like, this, it's always tricky with every situation about stress. So, like, I personally, I myself wouldn't be able to deal with all the stressful situations, honestly and obviously. But I think that as long as we acknowledge, or we are aware of the causes of our stress, then, you know, most of the time we should be able to deal with it rightly, or like as safely as possible. And someone said that bila terlalu stress, kita selalu hilang pertimbangan. That is true. Like, when you are stressed, sometimes you just cannot think straight. And if that ever happens, like, at least for me, what I would do is, you know, like, I would take a deep breath, just think about, like, why am I stressed again? Okay, I am stressed because I haven't eaten. What can I do about it? Go get some food. I am stressed today because I am listening, I have to attend this session. What can you do about it? Probably like go to the bathroom, just like mute me, or, you know, like when you feel like you are losing control over what you are stressed about, just stop for a while, think about the reason why you are stressed. Just, you know, like that's one thing that you can always do. Just always go back to what you are thinking in your mind. What is happening in your mind? Like, remember theory of mind, right? Like you have to be aware of what you are currently thinking. Okay. But, and again, like, I cannot guarantee that every time you do that, you will handle stress successfully 100%, but most of the time you should be able to like understand at least why you are stressed, and then like figure out what you can do to get away from the stressful situations. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Any other question about stress?
Can I ask?
Sorry?
Can I ask something?
Yeah, of course.
How about the things that we have been working for a long time, but at last it didn't turn out well. But how, it caused stress for us, but how you want to handle that?
Okay.
Because I have experienced it before.
That's a good question. Okay. So I will actually talk about this a bit later in the like just before we end the session. You know, like throughout all this session, I have always been telling you that, you know, take control of whatever you want to do. You have to take control. Ultimately, you have to understand that, you know, whatever you do, whatever you are working on, whatever you feel like, ultimately you have to understand that everything, you know, like I have always been stressing about, like, I have always been emphasizing that, you know, you have to really take control over your life. But ultimately, actually, this may sound contradictory to what I have been telling you, but ultimately, I want you to understand and to acknowledge that whatever that we have, whatever that we go through in our life, they are all actually part of Allah's plan, right? Like, everything is out of our control. Like, you can get, like, I don't know, COVID vaccine 3 times, like, you know, like vaccinated 3 times, but you can still get COVID, right? I mean, scientifically, you cannot explain that. Scientifically, you could probably say that this is not possible, right? Like, why can you still get COVID even if you are vaccinated? Right? Like, scientifically, maybe that is not possible, but again, ultimately, I believe all of us here are Muslims, right? Ultimately, we have to believe that everything is out of our control, which is again, like, contradictory to what I have been telling you. You know, like, there are certain things that you can control, there are certain things that you can change, but again, like, ultimately, we have to remember that, you know, like, we are just like human beings. We don't have power over it. Like, for your situation, Shahira, for example, you have been working on, you know, like, you have been studying every day, you have been working on your AdMats preparation, but then, like, you know, you feel like you have studied everything. You have studied every day, every night. You have prepared for all sort of questions possible, but then suddenly, after you receive the result for the examination, you still don't get like 60, 50, 70. I mean, like, you don't get like a good grade for it. Like, that's just an example, right? So of course, obviously, you feel stressed, you feel like helpless, you feel like, what's the point of doing all this if in the end, eventually, you know, like, I still don't get what I want to change? And at that point, if you feel like you have done everything, if you feel like, you know, you have do everything possible, you have done all possible preparations for that, and you still don't even come close to what you want, then, you know, that's just that. I mean, like, you have to, this is probably like a cop-out answer. This is probably like a very simple answer, but like, ultimately, that is, for me, like, at least for me, that's my mindset. Like, if it's not meant for you, if Allah said it's not your rizki, right? Like, you can work for it. If Allah said it's not your rizki, you wouldn't get it. Like, you can do all sort of things. Like, for example, again, with vaccine, you can get stratus vaccine, but if Allah said, okay, at one point you will get COVID, right? Of course, we have faith in Qadar and Qadar. Like we can work on it. That's why, you know, like I think we have ayat al-Quran said, like, you know, like Allah wouldn't change your fate if you don't work on it, right? Like, so that's sunnatullah, right? Like you have to work on changing something. If not, if you don't work on it, it won't change for you. But to a certain extent, you also have to realize that if you have given your 100%, if you have done everything accordingly, as according to sunnatullah, as how the world operates, and if you still don't get it, then it just means that, you know, it's not your rizqi. So that's probably like a simple answer I can give, or it's not probably even helpful to you, but that's just what my mindset. And I will also talk about this a little bit later in the other slides. Any other question? So I mean, again, like I probably am contradicting myself right now. Like I have been telling you, take control, try to change everything that you can, worry only about things that you can change. And then suddenly I talk about, no, you know, like Allah has planned everything for you. There's no, that you shouldn't be working on, you know, your SPM, because like it's already like a fate for you to not get straight A's in SPM. Actually, like, you know, we all have faith. Kita beriman. We all have faith in Qadar and Qadar, right? Like we can work on it to a certain extent, and that's only the thing that we can do. We can work on changing things, but the outcome, again, like it's still, you know, out of our control. We can only work on the process, but the outcome eventually it belongs to Allah, right? Like He has the say in everything. Yeah. So any other question? Sorry, Shahira, if that's not helpful. I couldn't think of any other answers actually. Yeah. No? Okay. All right. So for the past I think 1 hour, more than 1 hour actually, I think we have talked about, you know, ourselves, right? Like we have think about, you know, why we are stressed. We have think about why we think of ourselves that way. Right now, let's again use the concept of theory of mind, that is, you know, being aware of what we think, being aware of what other things, and try to relate it to our daily, you know, daily interactions, our relationships with other people, and that is interpersonal, right? Like between you and say your parents, between you and your siblings, between you and your friends. So with theory of mind, right? Like using theory of mind, like when you are aware of what you think, when you are aware of what other think, that's where empathy comes from. And even researchers have used the concept of theory of mind to understand empathy in young children, so like 4 to 5 years old. They develop empathy very early. We all develop empathy, you know, like the ability to empathize with others pretty early in our lives. Sometimes we just don't realize it. So would anyone like to share with us what you think about? What do you think empathy is? And how is it different than sympathy? Again, you can share with us in the chat. Give me a few minutes. I'll try to set up something. So just type in the chat. What do you think of empathy? What do you think empathy means? Okay, I'm getting good answers now. Can you hear me still? Cikgu, dengar saya tak? Dengar?
Sorry, dengar?
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, we've gotten excellent answers. Put yourself in others' shoes. Empathy is understanding, put ourselves in someone's situation, try to feel others' condition, able to notice other people's feelings. Okay. So for me, I think empathy is beyond. So the first step, like when you are aware of your own thoughts and other people's thoughts. So from that, you can take their perspective, right? Like you can, again, like I think I gave an example earlier of first order, or actually second order, first order theory of mind is me or you think of what is going on through my mind. So that's first order. Second order is I think of what is going through your mind. That is, I think of what you are thinking of me, if that makes sense. Like in my mind, like you are thinking of me. So that's second order, right? Like, so from that concept, you can take their perspective. You can take my perspective. Like you can think of yourself as me, and then think of what I am thinking about you. So that's basically, you are putting yourself in someone's perspective. You are putting yourself in someone else's situation. That's like that will lead to empathy. If you can empathize, that means you are taking the perspective of that person and try to feel how they feel. Like if you, for example, like if you are driving through the highway and then you see an accident happen, right? Like someone probably is lying there on the road. That moment when you feel like, oh, that must be painful. That is empathy. That means that you are putting yourself in that person's situation, and you imagine how does it feel to be in their shoes? How does it feel to be in their how does it feel to be them? So that's empathy. The difference between empathy and sympathy is the first order. Like you see someone involved in an accident and you think, oh, poor them. That's it. Like sympathy is just you feel you. It's just like you. I think it just emphasize sympathy really well. Able to notice other people's feelings. You are aware of someone else's feelings. You are aware of someone else's situation. That sympathy. You feel bad for them. You feel like, oh, okay, that sucks. That's bad. You feel sorry for them, and that's it. But empathy is like next level to it. It's higher than sympathy in that not only do you feel bad for them, but you feel like you are also you can understand why they are in pain. For example, why so basically that's like the saying, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Basically, like you take their perspective and try to see things from their own worldview, right? For example, so that's what empathy means, and how it relates to the concept theory of mind. Okay, and then there's the golden rule, that is very, very very general. I would say, like, it's well known. That is, when you are interacting with someone, you would want to think of them as well. Not only think about you, but also think about them. And the saying goes like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's also perspective taking. When you are interacting with someone, right? Like when you are speaking to someone, you don't want to sound mean. You don't want to sound like, you are looking down on the person. You are belittling the person, right? Because that's not how you want other people to treat you, right? So as like I will try to connect you. I'll try to connect the this example with all of you as peers, right? Like as a friend, as peers, you would want to, be as approachable as you can to someone, because you want them to approach you, right? You want them to ask you for help. You want to be as helpful as you can. So how can you do that is, try to see them, try to see yourself from their perspective. If you feel like, people don't approach you as often, maybe you don't seem approachable, right? So how can you be approachable? Try to see yourself from their perspective. Maybe you haven't been talking to them at all. You don't know them that well, right? Like maybe that's why people don't want to approach you, even though you are like a peers for them, right? So that's an example of empathy. Try to put, try to take their own perspective and see the world from their point of view. And of course, like this thing can get complicated because like you have to first know them. You have to first know the way they think. You have to first know their habits. You have to first know what they think of their own life. Then only you can empathize, right? You cannot just see a random stranger and then think, oh, this person is probably thinking of, like work or something else. You have to first know them. So that's like the complex layer to empathizing. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Please let me know if I am not making any sense. Okay. All right. Okay. Almost there. We are almost done. Sorry if this is getting longer. Let's now move into like, so what after empathy? What if you what if you can empathize with the person? So what, like I can feel bad for them. I can feel the pain that they are feeling. What's next? So I think when I was thinking of this point, I think this is an example of for when you as peers, when someone approach you, right? Like when you have developed like good relationship with your peers, with your friends, and they are comfortable with approaching you to ask for help, to complain, or like to just tell you, to share with you how they are feeling. What can you do? What can you as peers do when someone else approach you to talk about problems that they are having? So again, going back to Stephen Covey's book of the 7 habits of highly effective people, he said that like an effective people would also first, whenever they interact with someone, they would first seek to understand. They not that like when you are talking to someone, you don't try to just think of everything from your own point of view. Like you don't try to make people see the world the way you see. What an effective person would do, what a good peers would do is, when someone comes to you, you would first listen to what they are talking about, right? You don't straight away deny or reject whatever they are saying. You first listen and then try to understand their point of view, try to empathize with them, try to think the way they think. And after that, only then only you can convey what you feel, what you think about their problems. Then only you can have them understand your point. So like a simple way of saying this is that when someone comes to you, just listen first. Just listen to understand what's their point of view, what their problems are about, what their stress are all about. And then try to take perspective, try to think, try to put yourself in their situation. Actually, like when someone comes to me and say, oh, I feel like I'm stressed because I have an exam on Monday, but I haven't studied anything. Like I feel bad for myself. And then like what I can do when I hear that is actually put myself in that situation. Actually, you are true. If I also have an exam on Monday, I would also be stressed. I would also feel bad about myself, right? And then after you understand situation, you understand why that person is feeling stressed out, why that person doesn't feel well, why that the person have problems. Then only you can tell them, oh, actually, you can tell them, like, if I am in your situation, I would probably do this. I will actually plan what I can do for the exam, like plan my revision schedule. Maybe after this, I can, watch less Netflix, try to spend more time studying on Monday. That's you are. So after understanding the situation, then you can suggest, actually that I would do. But the delicate thing, or like the other thing that you have to do when you are trying to advise someone, or when you are trying to help someone, is always to acknowledge, always to let them know that, what I am suggesting is solely based on my experience, is just what I think would usually work for me. Even though I am suggesting stuff, you do not necessarily have to, like, follow what I am suggesting you. This is just how, like, you are telling them, like, this is just how I deal with a stressful situation, and you may deal it differently. Like, you would probably, in like scheduling for revision or an exam on Monday would probably not work for you. But yeah, so that's the thing. Like, you have to always let them know that you are not trying to. I think going back to I think Daniel's point, where you don't want to enforce your view, you don't want to enforce your feelings on someone. You just, like, you can suggest to them what they need to do, but you have to also acknowledge that, like, if you have the right, you have all the hub to not do whatever I am telling you, what I am suggesting you. So that's an example of, first you have to, understand, take the perspective of the person approaching you, take the perspective of someone having a problem, and then, try your best to see the problem from their point of view. Because sometimes, you may have the privilege, or you may have the capacity to deal with that stress, but that person may not have it, right? That person may not be able to study, to revise for an exam on Monday, because probably later tonight he has to have his parents. Tomorrow he has to go somewhere to, like, visit their relatives. So they probably wouldn't have that capacity to study. So, like, it's important for you to acknowledge that, to know that when you are taking the perspective of others, they may not have whatever you have right now in your life, for example. Yeah, I hope that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, also, like, are you listening to reply, or are you listening to understand? Because sometimes when people approach us, especially when people approach me, like when they tell me, oh, Aiman, I don't feel good today, and then, like, the automatic, the spontaneous thing that we would usually do is just, tell them, reply to them, or like just straight away tell them, oh, maybe you haven't been doing a lot, you haven't been productive today, right? But what we rarely do, or not we, what I rarely do is, like, when someone talks to me, I don't listen to understand. I listen to just, like, simply strike a conversation. Just, like, just try to reply without really understanding where they are coming from, or what's the point that they are trying to make, if that makes sense. That's also, like, one tip that I think is important when you are, interacting with someone. Any question? We are almost on our last slide. Any question? So, like, I have a question for you in the slide. How do you approach a friend who seems to be having a problem? Anyone has any experience on that? You can share with us, like, or you can try to think of. Yeah.
I think I have done this.
What's that? It just
I think I have approached someone who is having a problem, but it's quite easy to do it. I think we just got to. I just first of all asked if he is okay, and then from there I developed trying to gain his trust by saying stuff related to his problem and trying to understand what he is trying to say to me. And from there, I managed to get his problem. So I think approaching someone is hard, but if you know what you're doing, then it will go well.
Yeah, that's a good way of approaching someone you think are having a problem, right? So like again, going back to being empathizing, going back to first trying to seek to understand, like you don't always need to go in or like approach someone with the mindset, that you can help them, because sometimes they are probably having a problem that no one can solve it, right? Like for example, say an example of their cat dies, right? What can you help? How can you help that person if the cat dies and they're crying over it? You can probably just tell them, like I feel sorry, I feel bad about it, but that's it. Like you cannot do anything. So what you can do is like before you approach someone, like try not to have the mindset of you can always help them, but you can help them by Ansara Tepin said it perfectly. You can help someone just by listening. Like sometimes people just need someone to talk to. People just need someone to share their feelings, to share their problems, and they don't expect you to help. So what you can do when you see someone, or especially like your close friends or your friends, when they have a problem, what you can do is just approach them. If you feel like they are having a problem, obviously, just approach them, try to understand their situation, try to listen to them, and like assess if you can help. Try your best to like phrase your advice, phrase your what you think they can do to help themselves. Phrase it correctly so that they wouldn't think that what you are talking is all about you. Like it's also easy that when we see someone with a problem, say someone's, again, like using the example of someone's pet died, and then you don't go them like saying, oh, like my cat also died a few days ago. Like, you don't try to make things about you. You first try to like understand their situation, and then after that you try to advise. Like again, if you don't think that you can advise them on how to approach the problems, then don't advise. You can sometimes just listen to them, and that's probably all they need, right? So my suggestion, I think this question is also actually very tricky. My suggestion is when you see, especially your close friends having a problem, what you can do first is just try to be there, try to understand their problems, try to listen, try to carry the burden together with them, so that they feel like they have someone to share the burden with. And you don't have to always feel obligated that you always have to help, because like again, sometimes no one can help with certain situations. Perkara yang sering terjadi, kawan datang, kita cakap kita faham, dah lah berhubung. Okay, that's a good example of you being empathizing, you sharing the burden with your friends, right? Like, and that's a very beautiful thing. Like that means you are a very good friend. But again, there's like always, you always have to strike a balance between it. Like you can be concerned about it, but eventually you have to realize that some things are, I know, like I always say this, but like some things are just out of your control. You can be stressed about it. You can cry over it. That's fine. That's okay. But eventually you have to realize that in the end, if it's something that you cannot change, if it's something that you cannot control, there's no point worrying about it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I like that, you know, like when someone comes to you to talk about their problems, and I think it's a good sign that, you know, you really care about that person, and you have a good you know, you have a good emotion that, you know, you can empathize with them, you can feel bad together with them. That's a good sign, actually. But obviously, don't be too concerned, don't be too worried about that, about stuff or things that you cannot change, if that makes sense. Anyone else would like to suggest you know, how they approach a friend who seems to be having a problem, or just talk about anything, or like ask any questions? Almost there. Okay, no question, eh? All right. So finally, this is what I've been telling you. You know, like ultimately, you have to realize that nothing in this world, even your own body, nothing in this world is yours, right? Like you don't have control over it. You tomorrow, like if it's your destiny, for example, not your destiny, but maybe let's say mine. Tomorrow, let's see, maybe it's my destiny that, you know, like I wake up not having control over my body, like with a stroke, for example, like paralyzed, right? Like that's completely possible, because like even though I tried to eat healthy, even though I tried to exercise as often as I can, but if it's like destiny, like if it's Allah's will that, you know, like, you know, like I may be paralyzed someday, that's just like, you know, that's just a good reminder that, you know, ultimately whatever you have in this world, you know, your family, your parents, your wealth, good grades, free time, whatever, they all belongs to Allah, right? Like you don't have control over this. What you have control is choice. You can choose to work on what you want to work. You can choose to feel how you want to feel. You can choose to think about what you want to think, right? But ultimately, how you act on it, how you go about it, the outcome of what you are doing, you don't have control over that, right? So that's like one message that I also would like you to always you know, think about, that, you know, how no matter how big problems are, no matter how stressful you feel like you are in certain situations, you know that, you know, some things are just like out of your control, and you know, sometimes it's a test for you from Allah. I know this suddenly this sounds like a tazkirah or anything, but I just feel like it's a very good reminder that always ultimately you have to remember that, you know, Allah is with you, and you can always if you feel like you don't have no one to talk to, you can always talk to him, right? um, yeah, realize that, and know ultimately everything that you have and will ever have all belongs to him, and we ourselves, we also return to him someday, right? And so what does this mean to you? I want you to also think about this after this session. The fact that when you realize that nothing in this world belongs to you, your family, your parents, your privilege, your free time, you know, being able to have a laptop, have a device to attend this session, being able to sit properly, being able to eat healthily, being able to live life beautifully, that all, you know, belongs to, right? Like it's not yours ultimately. You can say that, you know, like, oh, I get good grades because I've studied perfectly, I've studied every time, I totally deserve this. Actually, no, right? Like it's all Allah's will. For me personally, when I always keep this you know, like this reminder in my mind, and I always think about this. For me personally, I think that, you know, for whatever privilege, for whatever things that I have right now, like say, like I'm probably now at Oxford, right? Like it's probably the best thing that I can ever achieve in my life. Ultimately, I will be held accountable for this, right? Like because some yeah, okay, Maslow hierarchy, okay. But like again, for me, I think that all this privilege that I have, like I have this opportunity to speak to you, I have this opportunity to share with you my knowledge, experience, I have this opportunity to attend Oxford, one of the best universities. Eventually, like I will be held accountable to what I have gotten with all these blessings that I have. Right? Like in Akhirat, we all believe in, you know, like good deeds, dosa and pahala, right? We all believe in it. Like so, for me personally, like when I always have this in my mind, like I know that I really have to take responsibility of what I am doing with my life. You know, like this life is not only for my own. Like I have all these privileges, I have all these blessings that not everyone has, right? And that's not because they don't study well. That's not because they are bad in, I don't know, like speaking English. They are just, you know, they are just not meant to come to Oxford or like to have a good life as me. That's not because of it. Like it's just because like Allah has chosen this path for me, and I will be held accountable for it, like eventually. So I have to take responsibility of how I live my life. So that's one thing. Also, by thinking about, you know, by realizing and acknowledging that whatever we have in our life is eventually, are eventually Allah's belongings, we will think that, at least for me right now, I don't really compete anymore. You know, like you feel like there's no need for competition. There's no need, like even when I'm studying right now, if someone else get better grades than me, that's their rizki, alhamdulillah, right? Like that's good for them. That's already written for them. Someone among you probably, you know, is studying well, getting good grades, feel happy for them. Like, you know, you don't have to compete because eventually we all believe that everyone has their own rizki, right? Like, you know, there's no need for competition. If all of you works well, studies well, you know, revise your stuff for SPM, for example, all of you can get like straight A's. There's no quota, there's no maximum, there's no like saying that only 10 person per school can get straight A's. There's no such thing, right? Like if you work on your own, if you work for yourself, if you work for your own rizki, then everyone will eventually get it. Like there's no competition. Like there's no need for competition. I mean, of course, like you would have rankings like exams, you would have CGPA, GPA rankings. Some people will be first, some people will be 10th, but eventually that doesn't mean anything, right? Like it's just very, very subjective, and it doesn't concern you. And another thing that I think of when I think about this is that now knowing that I have all the privileges, I have all the good things that some people do not have, you know, you feel the responsibility to help everyone, even strangers, because you know that they don't have that thing. For example, like I'm seeing A right now. For example, like A does not have the thing that I have. For example, like makan cukup, tidur, senang, like good room at a good attending good university. The person doesn't have it because it's not written for them. But because I have it, I have the obligation, I have the responsibility to help them, because again, like eventually, whatever I have, whatever the person has, it's all Allah's rizki. So sorry for this suddenly tazkirah tone, but like I just feel like, you know, I would like to share this with you. And this is just how this is just basically my mindset. You know, like once you have done everything that you can do, once you have acted on whatever you can act on, once you have take all the actions required for you to do the things that you want to do, then eventually, you know, tawakkal, right? Like eventually it's all up to Allah's plan. All right. So I think, yeah, just last like take home message. If there's a few things that you get away from this session, I hope you know now that you know about theory of mind, I hope that you can be more mindful of your own thought. Try to always be aware of what you are thinking, what's going through your mind. Why do you think that way? Why do you think that you are useless? Why do you feel like you are useless? Why do you feel like you are wasting a lot of time? Once you get to know the reasons to why you feel that way, then you can start working on it. You can start planning. You can start telling yourself that actually no, I deserve this break, for example. And then also focus on what you can control in life, including your thoughts. This is also important in whatever you do. And I would also like for you to share this with your friends. Like a lot of people, I think nowadays, they just don't realize how much power, how much control they have over their lives. They would, like some people would think that, okay, I was born into poverty. I was born into like not well-to-do families. My parents are not that rich, so I probably cannot do anything. Sure, like some things are out of your control. For example, like how your families are, or like what parents do. Those are not in your control. But what you can control is you can work hard on it. You can try to work on what you can do. You can study. You have good devices to attend online classes. You can work hard on it, right? Like just focus on things that you can control. Focus on being the best version of yourself, even when you are on your own. Like so, that's again that goes back to what goes through your mind. What are you thinking whenever you are on your own? And then finally, when interacting with others, doesn't matter, family, friends, strangers, try to understand their perspective first, right? Like don't always think that everything is about you. Everything needs to be everything, whatever you feel is right may not be right for someone else, right? So don't try to enforce your opinions. Don't try to enforce your worldview, your beliefs on someone else's, because they may come from somewhere else that that do things differently. So yeah, I think that's all. That's just very long. I do have a few things that I noted down earlier that we can talk about, but if time's out, we can end here. I think I've taken too much time anyway. Any questions, or like if you feel like what are your thoughts on anything that we just discussed about today? Please feel free to share. And also my favorite quote that is better than Carl Jung's earlier is a hadith that I want to share with you. But yeah, again, let's not go back to Tazkirah mode. All right, any questions? I'll go back to the earlier slide, I think.
Any questions, students? Or any reflection, maybe?
Yeah, just also feel free to share your thoughts. If you feel like whatever I talked to you, whatever I just shared, crap, not that useful, like yeah, that's also fair.
I have my opinion and like conclusion. I think whatever you have been through, the most important is always make sure your relationship with your like with Allah like kena jaga the most lah. Whatever happen pun don't ever jarakkan diri dengan Maha Pencipta, like jangan pernah bergantung pada manusia, like everything like that lah in your life. Just bergantung pada yang Maha besar, Maha Pencipta. Itu je.
Amazing. I cannot say that any better. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah. However hard is your life, like you always have him to ask for help. Of course, you can also try your best to work on it. But he's always there, right? Like we all believe, we all have faith. So thanks for that. I didn't see who was speaking, so thanks for that.
It's Daniel. It's Daniel.
Okay.
It's Daniel Aiman Alif. Okay, so
Mantap,
yang lain?
mantap.
How about the rest?
Can I share my reflection?
Yes, please, Shaira.
Okay. I think the thing that we learned today is they have been linked together. So what I get from the first is theory of mind, when we have to choose the best word to describe ourselves. So I choose confidence because these days I've been through a lot of my insecurities with others. So I think confidence can really solve my problem. Then for the second point is being proactive, when we have to determine the influence or concern. So I take the concern is we have a lot of judgmental society around us. So because of judgmental society, we have been feel a lot of insecure with others. So my influence is I have to be confident, be myself and be who I am now. No need to think about others' thoughts. And last is I realize what I can do is I can change others for their thought. So what I can do is I change myself first, and if people want to change, they can change by themselves. So I think that's all.
Good. Very
That
good.
is very nice. Thanks, Shaira, for paying attention to what I shared earlier. That's very nice to know that you were listening. Anyone else?
Ada lagi tak?
Also, I think ada masa lagi cikgu kalau
Boleh Alif. Boleh ke siapa yang nak? Boleh ke kita teruskan sekejap?
just a little bit.
Okay.
You know, like like still related to the reflection
boleh.
that we are in. Okay. Just now earlier, someone was saying or someone was asking about social media. I cannot find it. Anyway, I think I had two words earlier where someone was saying that they overthink a lot, or like overthinking is the best word that describe them as a person. Again, like there's always it's not wrong for you to overthink, right? The only thing that is, I cannot say it's wrong. Like the only thing that may be harmful for you by overthinking is when you overthink without doing anything, right? So again, this is up to you to decide. If you feel like overthinking is not a negative thing for you, then it's fine. You can continue going on with what you are doing. But if you feel like overthinking is really harmful for your life, right? What you can do is, again, my top tip is try to think about whether you have control over what you are thinking. Say you are overthinking about how will your life be after SPM? How will you work? How will you live your life working? Where will you study? You can think about that. You can overthink about that every night before you go to sleep. But eventually you have to realize that, okay, I have control over my life. What I can do right now is plan what I want to do after SPM. How can you plan about it? Go, for example, just go to internet, browse through possible interests, possible jobs, possible courses, possible degree that you want to do in, and then plan. Think about how can you get there? How can you do that degree? How can you go to that university? How can you work as an engineer? How can you work as a doctor? That are the things that you can think of, right? Like, so spend your energy on things that you can plan. So that's for overthinking. Unpredictable is also very interesting to talk about. I like that you think that you yourself are unpredictable. For me, one possible, again, like this is totally up to you. If you feel like unpredictability is something that is not bad, please feel free to continue to go on with you know, what you are doing right now. But if you feel like, oh, I need to stop being unpredictable, I need to be more predictable, like even on myself, right? So what you can do again is try to be aware of what is going on through your mind. Maybe you feel like, oh, I'm unpredictable today. I feel like yesterday I want to eat pizza, hari ni I want to eat Maggie. I'm so unpredictable. I don't know, that's probably not a good example. But like, try to think of the reason to why you think that way. Sometimes maybe, I don't know, like your surroundings are influencing you. So like, I guess like my own suggestion to that is, you know, try to find the reason to why you are feeling that way, why you are thinking that way. Okay, so that's the two words. And then regarding social media, overthinking gives me anxiety with thinking something deeply. Yeah, definitely. So like for some, that's why I say, like, for some people, overthinking can be harmful, because, you know, they would get anxious, they would get nervous, they would feel like anxious for no reason, right? Like, because they overthink about their future, and then suddenly they feel like, oh, I'm not well prepared for my future. And then they get nervous, they get anxious, cannot sleep, right? So again, going back to that, my suggestion is, you know, try to think of why you are overthinking in the first place, and try to address that thought, you know, usually by planning, or by thinking about what you can do, how you can act on it. That's just my opinion. It probably wouldn't even work for you. So if it doesn't work, you know, probably try something else. Let me see. I think social media. Okay, I found it. Do you think social media is giving negative impact to young generations social life? So for me, it doesn't always mean that, you know, social media or technology in itself is bad, because thank you to technology, we get to communicate right now, we get to discuss right now, right? Like, if the technology doesn't exist, we cannot do it. So we cannot, like, I cannot make a blanket statement, I cannot make like a general statement saying that no, social media is bad, everyone needs to stop using social media. Like, obviously I cannot say that, because it's a complex thing. Like, it has its own good, it has its own bad. But what I think that people nowadays don't realize, especially our generation that are, you know, like, we are born with along with, as technology progress, like, we are born to complicated technology. Kita lahir-lahir, even like youngsters nowadays, like, they are well you know, literate on using devices, some that even us, like, even our ages, not our ages, I'm older than you, sorry, I mean, like, your ages may not even know how to use. So I just want you to realize that, you know, like, because of social life, by social media, I am referring to, say, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, for example. These are the three major medium, right? Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But I want you to realize that, you know, because of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we now have you know, like, unlimited information about people's life. We have unlimited information about how people live their life. We have unlimited information about how good people's lives are, right? Like, because if you think about it, before the age of social media, before Twitter, before Facebook, before Instagram, what do you know about the world? What do you know about a person? You only know about those around you. You only know about your jiran. You only know about your high school friends. You only know about teachers. You only know about those people around you. You don't know about, like, someone in Italy. You don't know about someone in Singapore, because you don't have connection to them, right? But because of social media, you see all these things happening. You see people in Italy, or you see people in, I don't know, Britain, England, You see people in, let's not talk about global scale. Let's talk even about in Malaysia. In Malaysia, like now you see people in Sarawak, you see people in Terengganu, you see people in Johor, you see people everywhere in Malaysia, all over Malaysia, and you see how they live their lives, right? And that, because of that, you would tend, like it's normal, it's human nature for you to compare your lives, to think of, to look at their lives. Oh, they are living a very good life, right? Like you look at their life like from your own perspective, and then you started to feel like, I wish I have that good life. I wish I have, you know, that kind of family. I wish I have that wealth, that rich life, you know, like, you know, showing off so many things, like say for example in Instagram. So that's one impact that I want you actually not like influence, bad influence of social media. Now, because of social media, it actually allows you to compare yourself more with people. Before social media, you would only compare yourself with your jiran, you would only compare yourself with your high school friends, you would only compare yourself with, I don't know, teachers, whoever young you can see, anyone young you boleh tampak. But with social media, now you can see the lives of rich people in KL, the life of rich people in Johor, and that naturally you would feel like you need to compare yourself. And like I said earlier, it's I mean, like you can compare yourself, but think about it, right? Like, what can you do about it? Can you like tomorrow wake up being rich, being the thing that you wish everyone has, that you would have the same thing, right? Like it's out of your control. So there's no point in you know, spending so much time on worrying about that. So that's, I think, one bad impact of social media. Another thing is from social media, especially Twitter, people, you know, like it becomes so easy for us to express our thoughts, to express our feelings, right? And that can sometimes be very, very dangerous, because we would think that, you know, whatever people are saying in or like on Twitter, we would feel like we have to always react to that. We always have to respond to that when someone says that, you know, I don't know, MRSM typing, not MRSM typing, MRSM like when, I don't know, like when you see on Twitter someone say that, oh, MRSM sucks, MRSM is so bad, right? And then you feel like, oh, I need to reply to this person, I need to hantam this person, you know, like just being a keyboard warrior, just say that, oh no, like, and then you get into argument. But eventually, like, if you realize that, you know, not everything in social media, not everything on social media you have to react to. You can see it and then just like brush it off, like just say, okay, that doesn't concern me, that is something I should even worry about. That's it. Like, you know, that's why sometimes like there's a saying that ignorance is a bliss. Like you have to just ignore things that do not concern your life. So yeah, like there are two things that I think are really you know, becoming detrimental, becoming dangerous to our generation, the generation that use social media a lot. We feel like we have to always care about everything, but no, actually no. Yeah, I think that's it about social media. I hope that answers your question to the person who asked me about the social media. Okay, that's it. Cikgu, sorry. Now it's almost like 2 hours and a half.
It's okay, Alif. Okay, so anyone? Maybe last lah. Last ada siapa-siapa nak buat reflection or maybe apa? Ada tak? Tak ada Tak ada. So okay, kalau tak ada tak apalah. Okay. So untuk Alif, thank you so much. Alif, cikgu takut juga terlupa tadi nak cakap dengan Alif. Kat sini kita ada MRSM typing, MRSM mersing dan MRSM kepala batas. Okay.
Ada cikgu sebut tadi.
Yes. Okay. Jadi thank you so much Alif untuk perkongsian hari ini. Cikgu rasa satu benda yang mampu menarik minat ke dalam hati setiap orang hopefully. Tapi
InsyaAllah.
yes, insyaAllah. So apa pun sebenarnya datang sebenarnya daripada kita, macam kita nak menerima sesuatu benda tu kan. Okay. So hopefully bermanfaat pada semua pelajar, semua peers dalam segmen ni. Thank you so much. Okay, so kalau tak ada apa-apa, cikgu tutup program kita dengan tasbih kifarah dan suratul.
Itulah cikgu, cikgu cakap pasal whether they take it or not. Like we can also apply that. Like I have, like I have share with you all my thoughts. Whether you want to take it or not, it is out of my control, right? Like so, I won't worry about it. And it's totally up to you if you want to apply whatever I shared with you. If you don't want to, like it's totally fine. It's up to you. So that's a good example of worrying about things that really matters to you. Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Okay.
Dah tutup pun nak lagi kan. Okay, sorry.
Okay, kita ada Alif, kita nak ambil gambar sekejap. Boleh? Okay, kita tutup
boleh.
sharing screen.
Okay, sorry.
Tak apa. So kita ambil gambar, semua pelajar tolong buka kamera. Cikgu Baim, adakah semua boleh ambil sekaligus ataupun cikgu kena buat sebelah-sebelah?
Kena buat sebelah-sebelah cikgu.
Okey, baiklah. Okey, saya akan ambil sebelah-sebelah ya. Okey.
Cikgu pakai laptop kan?
Saya pakai laptop.
Okey.
Tapi cikgu nak ambil gambar dengan phone lah.
Oh, tak
So,
boleh
good
screenshot.
idea.
Screenshot.
Baim, jangan test cikgu kat sini, Baim. Okey, apa kata Baim tolong ambil.
Tak boleh sebab saya pakai phone kat luar.
Oh, ya ke? Okey. Kelas cikgu ambil. Don't worry, jap. Baik, jangan test cikgu sangat
Tu, Hadi Syaiful boleh screenshot tu. MacBook optimize.
Oh, ya ke? Okey, Hadi ambil gambar and then send to me. Boleh, Hadi?
Ni saya tengah coping with stress ni kat luar.
Okey, sekejap Baim. Okey, semua orang ready. Ada orang tak ambil, tak buka lagi kamera Nazura, Wan, from MRSM. Okey, kepala batas. Arik Danish. Okey, cikgu. Muaz, Awatif. Okey, Hadi, ambil gambar. Hadi, I need your voice. Dah ke belum?
Okay, sekejap. Okay, 1, 2, 3, screenshot. Okay, next punya gambar pula. 1, 2, 3. Apa kat belakang ni tak banyak buka kamera ni?
Okay, buka kamera yang belakang.
1. 1, 2, 3. Okay, nice.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you students. Thank you peers. Sekejap Alif. Alif sekejap ya. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you Cikgu Ain, Cikgu Ros, Cikgu Afan.
Terima kasih cikgu.
Okey cikgu, terima kasih banyak.
Thank you Abang Alif.
Terima kasih Abang Baim.
Abang Baim, Abang Alif.
Thank you.
Abang Alif, Abang Baim.
Jangan nanti kita meeting
boleh.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much from Kepala Batas also and Mersing. Thank you so much. Are you enjoy?
Enjoy cikgu.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Cikgu, bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Ya, boleh buka suara boleh buka suara. Thank you. Thank you. Cikgu Ros, kejap ya Cikgu Ros. Cikgu Ros, Cikgu Afan, Cikgu Aim, Baim. Thank you so much. Okay. Hadi, thank you.